The Seattle Autonomous Zone protesters, or Chaz protesters if they've called themselves for some reason, have some of the most insane demands you've ever heard. Don't believe me? Just stick around and I'll prove it to you. Before that, Chaz stands for Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, which still probably doesn't make any sense to you, so let's go a little bit deeper. We have here from USA Today that Chaz is a no-cop co-op. It's a portion of Seattle where protesters have essentially taken over the entire area. After repeated clashes between protesters and the police actually decided to abandon their precinct on Monday, and as a result, the protesters moved in and they kind of surrounded the area. They've taken over an area of about 6 blocks that looks like this. Now, I want to be very clear right now at the get-go that it's not really a violent situation at the moment, and that is a good thing. Most of the things happening are things you'd see at festivals, like artists painting murals, speakers discuss topics of racial equality, snacks are handed out, and there are no police in sight. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because there was a rumor going around, or there were many people claiming, that these protesters who were taking over the autonomous zone were actually extorting businesses and forcing them to pay them money for protection. But there isn't any real evidence that is happening. As a matter of fact, the police chief, Best, who initially said that was happening, they had heard reports, he has come out and said that has not happened affirmatively, and we haven't had any formal reports of this occurring. Now, that doesn't mean it hasn't happened, I'm not saying that, but it does mean we have no real evidence. That being said, the Republic of Chaz is not without problems. For example, one traumatized citizen of Chaz tweeted this out, that the homeless people took away all the food from the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. And so they're imploring us for more food. We need more food to keep the area operational. Please, if possible, bring vegan meat substitutes, fruits, oats, soy products, etc. Anything to help us eat. They're not being picky here, they just want food so they can survive. As long as that food is vegetarian or vegan or soy. Moving to a more serious topic, let's look at what they're demanding. Because as I said earlier, these citizens of Chaz are essentially occupying a section of Seattle, and they're demanding things in return before they'll actually leave and essentially leave people alone. And this list has more than 30 items on it. A lot of them are completely insane, and I'm not going to highlight everything, but I will go over the ones that really caught my eye, starting with this one. The Seattle Police Department and attached court system are beyond reform. We do not request reform, we demand abolition. And just in case you think maybe they're using the same terminology like defund the police means cut a little bit of the funding, no. They say this means 100% of funding, including existing pensions. So if you are a retired policeman living off your pension in the Seattle area, well, you obviously do not deserve that money. It's not as if you are putting your life on the line almost every single day to try and protect the citizens of Seattle. You don't deserve to retire in peace. Who do you think you are? And keep in mind, this is not just the police system they want to abolish, but the attached court system as well. Everything to do with criminal justice in Seattle needs to go. That being said, they're still being somewhat reasonable. They understand you can't just completely immediately abolish the police system. So they have some demands in the meantime. What they say is that in the transitionary period, we demand that the use of armed force be banned entirely. What that means is no guns, no batons, no riot shields, none of that. Until the police force is completely abolished, they have to just walk around and I guess ask people to stop committing crime. So if you have someone who breaks into your house with a gun and you don't have any weapon to defend yourself, you can call the police, they'll come over, and they'll ask nicely for the robber to stop robbing you. I guess that's how it works. This one is highlighted, not sure why, maybe because it's completely ridiculous. They say, we demand a retrial of all people in color, not of color, currently serving a prison sentence for violent crime by a jury of their peers in their community. This one to me seems a little bit at odds with the one we saw at the beginning, because if you abolish completely the court system, how do you then have a retrial for everyone who's in prison? Also, only the people in color who are imprisoned, they're the ones who deserve a retrial, because obviously they were imprisoned, even though for violent reasons and violent crime, it was still just because they were black. This also doesn't really work with one of their other demands, where they want to completely abolish the prison system anyway. So why should you bother retrying anybody if you're not going to put them back in prison? Just let them all free. That's essentially what they want here. Now we come to the obligatory demand for free college. Because virtually any time anyone on the left has a list of demands like this, they have to include free college. Whether it be the Green New Deal or the Democrats' initial aid package, it always has to have free college. And they do too. We demand free college for the people of the state of Washington. Now moving on to the last thing I want to highlight from their list of demands, they say, we demand the hospitals and care facilities of Seattle employ black doctors and nurses specifically to help care for black patients. To me, that sounds a little bit like segregation. You don't want white doctors and white nurses working with black patients. That's not acceptable. What you need is black doctors and black nurses. So you might as well just have black hospitals and white hospitals. That's basically what you're saying here. Now, one big caveat with all of these lists of demands, I do need to point out in the interest of honesty that there isn't one group in charge of what's going on at Chaz. What that means is that even though this list of demand is certainly supported by some of the people at Chaz, it's not everyone. Not everyone in Chaz is quite this ridiculous. Some of them are a little bit less ridiculous. We also have from the New York Times, free food, free speech, and free of police inside Seattle's autonomous zone, in which they quote someone inside the autonomous zone, Mr. Moore, who says regarding the police, "We are trying to prove through action and practice that we don't need them, and we can fulfill the community's needs without them." And sure, that will work for a little while, but you can't really go without police. If you go without police for too long, the crime is certainly going to spike. For a few days it may be okay, but I don't think that's really going to last. Again, this utopia that they've created here is not really going to work, and it's already had repercussions. You see, in Seattle, police times have sometimes tripled because of this autonomous zone. The last thing I want to highlight here before we go is the difference of opinion by many on the right and many on the left. And you can basically describe that using this article here from Politico, where it says Seattle's mayor and police chief diverge on autonomous zone. So starting with the police chief of Seattle, who is Chief Best, which is a pretty awesome name, he says, "I am very angry about the situation we have, and at this point, we just want to make sure that it gets resolved. While I really support First Amendment free speech, this is not that." However, the mayor disagrees. She says, "Lawfully gathering and expressing First Amendment rights, demanding we do better as a society, and providing true equity for communities of color is not terrorism, it's patriotism." That was the mayor of Seattle, Mayor Durkin. Now, I don't know about you, but in my opinion, occupying a section of a major US city, declaring yourselves essentially autonomous from the rules and laws of the United States, saying you're your own republic, and then saying that the police basically cannot enter, that doesn't sound like free speech to me. If I were living there, I'd be fairly concerned right now. If something happened, the police could not get to me. This is not just freedom of expression or the First Amendment. Protesting is one thing, but occupying a location in the middle of a city, that's something completely different. I pointed this out earlier. As of yet, there hasn't really been any violence, and that's a good thing. But I don't think that's going to last long, especially if homeless people keep coming in and taking all their food. And that is all that I have in this video. Be sure to subscribe if you appreciate it, leave a like and a comment, and just let me know what you think about this autonomous zone in Seattle. And who knows, maybe if you're lucky enough, there will be an autonomous zone near you very soon. I'll see you next time.